All right, guys, so I got the 55 pushed out and I put a table up in here and I went and got my side trim out of the house. I've moved these in and out. You know, they've been stored in a bedroom for probably 7-8 years, and I move them in and out, so they do get scuffed. So I'm going to basically, I think what I've decided to do is go back over them again with 2000 grit dry one direction by hand, and then just repolish the whole thing again and wipe them down with wax and grease remover and start taping them off and see if I can get these things painted today. If I can get this done today, I can put these on the car probably tonight, since I can put them on without touching that fresh paint. But that one goes here, then the long one goes down that way. So I'm going to use Galaxy Gray Pearl, which is the color that I have on a lot of accent parts on the car, like the brake pedal and gas pedal arm and some brackets and just little stuff. All right, well, I ended up having to sand and repolish the trim, which this one I need to repolish. I've sanded a few little spots with some 2000, but I got this door point sanded and repolished. When I got to this one in particular had a lot of porosity in it. Some trim, you're bound to get into it on at least one part, maybe on a car. You'll get into it and there'll be little pinholes in your stainless, and it's porosity is what it is. But anyway, this piece in particular had quite a bit of speckles in through here, which would have been craters pretty much once I got that painted. So what I did was I just masked it off, and I went in there and I sanded it down with some 320 grit paper, and then blew it off and then wiped it out with wax and grease remover, and then I put in a couple of coats of black etching primer. And what I'm noticing is it's actually sanding out. I'm using 600 grit. It's actually sanding out the pits, but I've got a pretty good low spot. And you'll actually notice this on a lot of stainless steel trim, especially on 55s. You'll notice this in quite a few of the door points. They'll have a few little low spots there. So what I'm going to go ahead and do after I get the porosity sanded out up here, hopefully I can get it all, but I'm going to go ahead and hit it again pretty heavy back here, let it dry for about an hour, and then go back and sand it some more, and hopefully I can get it blocked out. But I probably ought to look at some of these other pieces. There's a pretty little low spot right there. I mean, this is pretty much where you're trying to make something really, really awesome, but sometimes you just can't. There's a little bit of porosity right there and there. So I'm gonna, I guess, work on that some more. That's pretty bad, but I don't think this door point has it as bad. It's got a little low spot there. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just didn't want it to be really, really bad, you know. So I made a sanding block. This is an old sanding block of mine, and I just basically shaved off a little piece. I'm going to use my Rolock and do it to a point to where it kind of has the shape of that, so it'll actually go all the way up. So I guess I better go ahead and do that now. But anyway, thought I'd show that. All right, guys, so I'm going to started shaping this, but I'm going to basically just show you how I'm doing it. I mean, this is common knowledge to a lot of people. Okay, pretty much just made a rounded end on it, and now I can take it over here and use it on the trim to, you know, get up there where I need to. up in there, so this actually needs to be sharpened up more to a point. Yeah, I'm going to grind it some more. I need it to basically fit that shape so I can sand it all the way up there. I got my clip set out here. Now when I was building the car, I had it all in mock-up and it was all raw, but I mocked up every bit of the stainless trim, and because I had to drill holes in the quarter and for the Belair scripts in the quarters and all kinds of stuff. But what I did was I used bags and labeled everything, and it has all the hardware and everything in it. So pretty much at this point, all I got to do once those pieces of trim are painted, the inlays are painted, and they dry a little bit, I can put the clips in there and then immediately mount it on the car. Now another thing I did is on the back side of the trim, when I had the clips inside the trim in the back, I went around with a Sharpie and outlined the clip on the back side of the trim. So when you turn the trim over, you can see where the clip goes, and then I can, when I go to put them in there, I know exactly where they need to go to line up on the holes in the car. So pretty nice little way of making it go a little quicker. So I just put my second coat of etch primer on this inlay here, and I've got my custom sanded and cut to fit sanding block here, and I'm going to go back here in a minute and block sand on that some more and hopefully get that low spot out of there. I got one little crater up here, porosity up here, that's pretty deep, and I need to get it sanded out. But I got my door weather strips in from H&H today. These are precision, and I have never had precision before, so hopefully they're good. But it does have the molded ends on it, so that's pretty awesome. Hopefully they work really nice. They appear to be really soft. They are super soft. Oh my gosh, I don't even know if the this is the Dan Chuck ones down here. Oh yeah, these are way softer. I can squish almost my fingers flat. This one I can't do that. But again, these, you know, have been in the package for like 9 years, so no telling how long these have been in the package. But anyway, with that seal being that super soft and squishy, that's going to make the doors close a little easier than what those would have been. But I'm going to go ahead and run you guys through this. I've been asked a couple of times over the course of the past year why I don't have holes in my quarter panel right here for the trim, because this long quarter molding goes on right here, and it takes a clip kind of like this. It has a stud on it. It takes a little sheet metal nut on the back, and you slip this into the back of the trim, and then you put your trim on there. So what happened to me was, my very first hardtop I had, I lowered it probably as low as this one, and I had 18-inch wheels all the way around, and I think the backs were 18 by 9 if I remember right. But anyway, when you fill a wheel well up on one of these cars and you get your wheel and tire out closer this way to the quarter, you know, that's not a good thing to have sticking through the quarter in that area that wheel and tire takes up the space on. So what ended up happening is it chewed up the sidewall on my tire. Now it was clearanced, you know, when I put it in there and was up under there wrenching the nut on the back, I had clearance on the tire. But leaf spring cars, this car still leaf spring, they move a little bit side to side. So, or like going out into a parking lot that is kind of uphill a little bit, you know, you go to turn in and your car goes up, it's going to make one wheel go deeper in and the other one kind of stretch out a little bit. So it ended up tearing up my tire, and I had some pretty expensive tires on that car, so I learned that lesson on that car. So, you know, that could have blew the tire out. So when I done the holes in the quarter panel for the trim, I just didn't ever drill them up here, so the wheel and tire won't get into the trim clip. But that's why I did that. Well, hopefully I can get this trim painted today. That's the plan anyway. Well, these little plates, they're drilled and tapped. These go in my door spears at the very back, and when you open the door, if you look in the jamb, you'll see a little stainless steel button head Allen that I've got polished, but that's what goes into that. This is what holds the rear of the door spears to the door. So I've got them marked on here with a Sharpie. So I don't want to like etch prime these because it'll cover that up. So what I've decided to do, I've wiped them down. So I'm going to use Duplicolor's engine paint. It's just clear, and I'm going to clear coat them because they're just raw steel and I don't want them rusting, because what will happen is that'll rust inside that trim, and you know, if water, rain, or whatever gets in there, you'll end up with rust tears, stains coming down your paint on your door below the spear. So I'm going to clear coat these, and that way I'll still be able to read them, and it'll protect them a little bit. Let that dry a little bit, and then I'll flip them over. Man, I got to tell you, having the car pushed out, I come out here and do stuff like this, I look up and that's what I see. Oh man, it just puts a smile on my face, man. I cannot wait to get the side trim on it and the fenders on it. It is gonna look awesome, man. I am really excited. All right, this is the front bench seat tracks that bolt to the floor that allow the seat to fold forward or slide forward and backward. So that is the Galaxy Gray Pearl, and that is base coat, clear coat, and I put on 2 full coats of clear there. Here's the other one here. I had blasted these and they were primed, so all I had to do was scuff them a little bit, blow them off, wipe them down, and shoot them. I'm pretty happy with them. It's a nice color, contrasting color against all that black. So this is the side trim, and I've got like clear stuck on my fingertips when I was taking the tape off, so I've got little stuff here. I need to go back with some reducer on a rag and wipe it off, but that is the Galaxy Gray Pearl base coat, clear coat this is the side trim that goes on the car. I think that's a beautiful color. When it gets bolted up there to that shiny black, it should look pretty cool. So, I guess maybe bolting this stuff on tonight, maybe. I mean, that clear that I'm using dries fairly quick, even though I used a slow activator, but I will tell you all, if you guys are going to do your trim or anything like this where you use that blue vinyl 3M tape to mask everything off because it gives a good crisp edge, you need to get that tape off there while the paint's still wet. Not dripping wet, but not firmed up. When you go to peel firmed up tape, it'll leave kind of a gripply edge on it. So what I did was I unmasked the 2 long ones, and then I went back and put my final coat on the paint dividers, and I peeled those. Those actually took the longest, these little paint dividers here with all them little lines, because you have to dissect your tape. You got to pull one section at a time, because if you start pulling one corner and it starts pulling up all of it, it might flip back and get in your fresh paint and might mark it up. So anyway, you have to dissect it, you know, one piece at a time, and it's not too bad really. And then once those are done, I put another final coat on these, and I let them set maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 minutes, and then I went over and started pulling those. But you know, when that paint's still pretty soft and wet, when you pull the tape loose, it'll kind of relax that edge a little bit instead of having that rough edge to it. So that's been my experience with that 3M tape. Like if I'd have left this overnight, it would have had a very rough edge to it. This is the tape I'm using. This is blue. It's a 1/4 inch tape. It's 3M, and it's just a vinyl. It's like a fine line masking tape basically, but it gives a super nice straight edge on something if you use it to, you know, stripe something or whatever. But to me, I think the secret is pulling it off while before the paint's fully cured or dried, because you know, all the paint that's on that vinyl tape if it's dry and you go to pull it off, it's going to go to flicking the paint off. You know, the stuff on the vinyl will start flicking off. Like if you've ever got paint on plastic like this and you go to, like tomorrow I'll go to move this and that paint will just flake off in big chunks and fall everywhere. You don't want that stuff going in your paint. But anyway, guys, I'll let this stuff set up for, I guess, a little bit, but I might go ahead and put that trim on tonight because it's killing me. I want to see it on the car, you know what I mean? I've got the clips out there in the car, still in the bag, and then I can bolt all the trim on. And then after the trim's on, I can put in my filler panels that I made and Raptor line that boxes off all underneath the car so you don't see up inside the quarter panel from underneath. So that'll be a pretty exciting thing to get a few more custom parts on there. But that car will really look way more complete after I get the trim on it. That's already dusty again. I wiped it off yesterday afternoon though, so being out here most of the day, that's going to do that. So anyway, guys, get to work.